As with most things in drama, the best answer is simply not to say anything. Alright, so there's this YouTuber called Brad Taste. Now, I don't really know anything about Brad other than that he's a music reviewer. I don't necessarily give a shit about his politics, but boy oh boy does this just come off as a really funny meltdown. The reality is, with most drama, or most of the time when you're being chastised, you can weather it pretty well by doing a few things. Either one, not saying anything about it because that tends to drag more attention to it that you don't want, or two, you could just tell your audience, I actually just don't care what you think. It's probably better to cultivate an audience that isn't going to chastise you for the people you hang around or the people that you meet in your career, because you will actually end up running the gambit of people you meet. I've met people that I disagree with or absolutely despise, but the part of doing this job is being able to shut it down sometimes and just talk to people. Alternatively, if you do cultivate that kind of audience, you gotta move really carefully. And at some point in your career, you will be answering for cultivating that kind of audience. So in this case, that's what happened to Brad. He had cultivated that kind of audience, and it ended up biting him in the butt. Brad ended up meeting the Kleins, which, as you know, are H3H3. Now, what's interesting here is that in recent days, the Kleins have been in the middle of the political discussion because of their ethnic and religious persuasions, of which I will not dictate here. However, I will say one thing, in that they celebrate Hanukkah. You know, now that I'm trying to like beat around the bush to make sure that this video gets monetized, it almost sounds like I'm more anti-Semitic than someone who's trying like to not be anti-Semitic, but I swear, like I'm trying to be like not politically dangerous to the point where I don't get ads on YouTube. But this isn't really working as intended. Anyway, Brad took a picture with them and ultimately ended up paying the price. A bunch of people on Twitter got mad at him. In particular, Watermelon Twitter, which also sounds bad, but I swear refers to pro-Palestinian Twitter accounts. Anyway, this image made a statement that I did not intend to make, and I'd like to apologize for the people who were hurt or upset by this, says Brad. I also apologize for my quick response, as it was dismissive towards people who care about me and others deeply. I appreciate you for looking out for me. So yeah, Brad was able to get a VIP ticket to hang out with the Kleins backstage, and this had a knock-on effect with his Twitter account. He went on to say, I'm aware that being around Ethan and Hila at the moment is very questionable. I wanted to meet them, despite people's valid criticisms of them. I am aware this is a bad look, and posting a photo with them upset many people. Not the best decision on my part. Honestly, Brad would have been fine not saying anything, but he put himself in a very interesting position and is kind of one of those people that wants to be seen as being a really morally just person. I think people's actions speaks loudly enough on their own. I don't think you really need to justify why you did or didn't take a photo with someone or anything like that. Ultimately, the internet really doesn't owe you anything, and it's about personal confidence and responsibility to just not be bothered by every other person's opinions. If you know in your heart of hearts that you're not doing anything bad and that you're comfortable with the decisions that you make, you're not really going to be bothered by what Twitter has to say. But in this case, it seems like Brad is, which, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think is kind of a confidence issue, aside from the politics of it, right? I think Brad would have been just fine had he not said anything, but, of course, some of his audience were going to have a problem with it. But that's just the reality of it. I do things all the time that my audience has a problem with. The thing is that I just really don't care about their opinions about what I do in my personal life. This is the tweet that started to sour me on Brad's opinion during this whole debacle occurring, which again, these are kind of things that really wouldn't be out there if Brad just didn't respond to everybody who was there. I think it's responsible and honestly adult to not respond to everybody on Twitter who has some criticism to say about you, because ultimately, no matter what you say, their opinion's already made up, and you should, you know, love yourself enough not to put yourself through that. Anyway, Brad went on to say, I wanted to meet them because they were famous, and I had the opportunity to watch a creator who was a pivotal part of my childhood and early YouTube adventures. I had no care for the moral implications at the time, I just wanted to feel cool. Which is a really funny way for him to say it, because it honestly, in a way, he's like saying that he felt peer pressured to do it because he wanted to be in the quote-unquote in crowd and feel like a cool guy. But then I read this and I go, well, you're not a teenager, you're an adult. And then I go, oh, wow, you're like actually just a really shallow adult, because you were just like, oh, I wanted to be cool. I wanted to meet a famous person. I wanted to be around the people who are important. And it just ends up making him sound like he's actually a really pathetic, really shallow guy, which is probably not the intention. It was probably more him saying that he felt peer pressured, like it just like, you know, smoking a cigarette. I just wanted to feel cool. But ultimately it does make him sound like just, you know, a kind of person I know I wouldn't want to associate with, not for his political reasonings, but rather because of the moral implications of just being peer pressured by existence. I don't know. It just looks really, really sad and pathetic, and like a younger person is tweeting that, not Brad, who is an adult. Ethan ended up clapping back on his Instagram stories, and it was a pretty measured response. Nothing worth mentioning, but this did kick the ball down the hill, and it did start to collect dust, as now people were coming by it and questioning everything about Brad. One side saying that he wasn't supporting Watermelon Twitter enough, the opposite side saying he was an anti-Semite, and then asking for him to back up his opinions, and then other people saying that he's like a limp-wristed baby child who can't defend his opinions or defend any actions that he does as an adult. He has no morals and no standing, which is probably the camp I'm in. But yeah, it ended up causing quite the stir. Twitch poll streamer Stardust actually responded, and Stardust said, quote, and quoting him, "However, he is an adult who has a weak filter for what he says, and real people get hurt from it. Care to explain what you mean that is, Brad, or are you just continuing to cater to racist?" To which Brad responds, "I literally don't owe you shit. Google it yourself and make up your own mind." Stardust replies, "So you literally don't know. Lol. Lamau even." Brad returns it and says, "Nah, I just don't care. I don't care." Well, I'm adding the don't care part. But he says, "Nah, I just don't owe your bitch ass anything, please." Stardust replies, "But you owe anti-Semites and racists more of a response. Make it make sense, Brad." Brad responds, "You're superficial and not threatening to my career. You aren't worth anything to me." Which I know Stardust, and I know Stardust is coming from it in like a, I actually want to have a discussion right now kind of thing, because she is definitely a political person, but she's smart enough and capable enough to actually try and sit down and have a conversation with someone. Stardust is trying her best here. She really is. But of course she's gonna clap back because Brad acts like an absolute asshole. I do find it really funny that plenty of other people responded just the same as Stardust did, but Stardust was the only one who got these really demeaning responses from what I saw, right? And in my opinion, I don't know, it just kind of, it comes off as like a, oh, well, you're a woman, so I can talk down to you type of thing. Words like, you're superficial and not threatening to my career come off as very, like, I'm important and you don't matter type of thing, which I think is a really bad attitude to self-impose on yourself as a creator. I think it's not very healthy, and I think long-term, that's the kind of thing that ends up with people ending up in just serious drama that's even harder to deal with than something as simple as this. It's very, very, I think that's disgusting, personally. I don't like words like that from YouTubers, especially if it's in a context that's not, like, you know, helpful to your career at all. It's just, I don't like it at all. But yeah, he did reply with all that to Stardust, and he also did reply to a few others and basically get into the middle of it. Now, a lot of people did have very valid criticisms, especially from the drama community, because we've seen it. We see what happens when YouTubers just cater to every single whim of every crazy person. You just really shouldn't. It's really not good for you, and it'll have knock-on effects for you later down the line. Anyway, Turkey Tom ended up responding, and all he did was copy and paste exactly what Brad said, turning it into a copy pasta, to which Brad responded, "We literally laugh at you behind your back. You have no real friends," which is a really weird one because I know that's not true. And I'm certain Brad also has friends, but like, I mean, I don't know, man. When I get off of the internet and I hang out with my friends, all of which who have relations to the drama community, some of which, we do have conversations about drama, but we really don't. And we also don't just sit around and mock people like this. Don't get me wrong, those conversations come up, and there's a little mocking that goes on from now and then, but ultimately, I don't think most people give a shit about what Brad does in his free time. I know I don't. I really don't even know anything about the guy. I'm gonna self-admit that. But this comes off, again, as an example of a really childish attitude and behavior that's built up about the guy. This is the kind of thing that I don't like to see from, like, Zoomers and Millennials, because I think it speaks to very poor character. It's kind of like the thing where it's like, dude, come on, like, really, this is what we're gonna do? Like, it's not worth it. If you're not gonna address any of it seriously, or talk about it, or have a constructive conversation about it, then why the fuck are you even talking about it? Just be an adult about it and ignore it. It's happened to me, and it'll happen to you, and it'll happen to every creator. So it's about just picking and choosing your battles. And this one isn't one to choose. Anyway, this ended up going on, and Brad ended up deleting most all of these tweets, as well as blocking most of the drama community for, you know, at this rate, the gloves were off, and now everybody was making fun of him. Rightfully so, I think. I think he should take some licks from this, but I think he's going to probably take all of the wrong lessons from it. Ultimately, he should have just not said anything in the first place, and maybe if he really did feel like he was supporting something he didn't like, just delete the picture with Ethan Klein and not say anything about it. You can do a lot and not say anything. You can do that. That's actually like an option. You're not dedicated. You're not owed anything by this audience. It's just not how real life works. Just do that. It's so much more adult. I don't know. I think there's a lot of lack of confidence in this field, and I think a lot of it is lampshaded by creators' absolute narcissism that they feel beholden to via a parasitic audience. So for Brad, in this case, I look forward to the next time that your negative review of music ultimately results in your audience backlashing on you, because that has happened before and will happen again in perpetuity for as long as the internet exists. Brad did a live stream in between when I recorded this and now, so I got some more opinions on Brad. First of all, Brad smokes a lot of marijuana, and I gotta be honest, Ethan is online and Brad both kind of have a similar vibe to it. You know, the white guy, stoner guy type of vibe? It's definitely that. Hey, maybe this is a hot take. I don't really smoke weed because it makes my anxiety really bad. But, dude, you know, you pass, like, the age of, like, 24 when you leave college. And when you're still doing the, like, weed is my personality thing, it's kind of giving cringe. I like, honestly, like, bro, come on. Like, go fucking learn to garden or something, or pick up a hobby that doesn't have you sitting around and vegetating while you listen to fucking tunes. But the real funny part about the live stream Brad did, and I don't know if this is like a characteristic thing, the same thing happened in the Ethan is online stuff, which, by the way, Ethan hilariously will get high and call people pedophiles, but Brad, while live, his girl came in, and his girl participated in defending Brad from the haters. She also sounded kind of high in it as well. But yeah, dude, like, don't allow that. I gotta be, don't allow that. Don't do that. I get it. You're like, you know, women are emancipated, but it's like you should be able to fight your own battles. Like, this is the equivalent of, like, you know, couples fighting at Walmart. The guy gets his ass beat, and so then the girl starts fighting with the other guy's girl, you know? It's giving that vibe, right? It's giving real trashy vibe. Anyway, I hope your career is successful or whatever. Whatever. Fucking subscribe and hit the bell here.